Hey everybody, it is your boy, Self-Love Gangsta, and it is the final day of January, which means we're getting pretty close to the 1 month anniversary of the self-love journey, and I say that very tentatively. It's a very tentative celebration. Because I feel like the last, at least, I want to say 10 days of our journey together, really my journey with myself that I'm broadcasting to you, the viewer, I feel that I haven't given it my all. Like, that I have kind of it's been lackluster in terms of my commitment to asking myself the question, what would somebody who loved themselves do? And let me just make sure I see some speckles on the camera there. I hope I didn't make it worse. Oh yeah, and I'm not wearing my gangsta hat today because it's getting warmer out and it's only January 31st. I wonder why that is. It's global warming probably, but we're not going to get into that. And yeah, my hair is kind of fucked up probably because I usually wear that hat. And I don't, make my hair up. But now you've seen me. You've seen me at my most vulnerable. So hopefully that means we're getting a little closer. So that's nice. Anyway, what is the point of this video? Well, the point, first of all, is to say I'm still in it. I still very much want to get really masterful at loving myself. And, but I have, yes, that was what I was talking about prior. I have, and you'll have to forgive me, I am really ADD right now. So we're going to just look at that. And we're done looking at that. That was pretty nice, wasn't it? It was pretty pleasant. But I hadn't been super committed to asking myself the question whenever a new choice point presented itself, which is, if my memory serves me correctly, what I was kind of supposed to be doing. But I also recognize, and I touched on this in the last 2 videos, that sometimes loving yourself the most accurately and authentically means to stop whatever you're doing and just sit in stillness. And I'm very much a man of action at my most vital. Ooh, almost ate shit there. But something that I've realized is some of the most loving, one of the most loving things you can do for yourself, especially if you're a really antsy person like me, who feels like I just gotta take constant action, like bold, dynamic action. That might not be the best call for you. And it's certainly, I've kind of come to terms with the fact that I might need to be resting a lot more than I realized initially. And that might be just the very, like, there just might be a whole hell of a lot of that in the earlier stages of my self-love journey. Asking myself, what would somebody who loved themselves do for 365 days starting out? But if I have it my way, I will be doing this for the rest of my life. And hopefully, if reincarnation is real, I will be doing it again in the next life and again, and continuing my dedication to self-love. And maybe there'll be new teachers and a new spin on the process, but ultimately it really is. It just boils down to what is the most loving thing to do towards yourself in any given moment, especially when you're presented with either two choices or more moving forward in your life. Does that make sense? Definitely check out the program, which I've only watched the first video, introduction video for Teal Swan's 365 Days of Self-Love e-course. And so I'm kind of winging it. That's probably why I've had so much trouble in the last 10 days in particular, have been very tumultuous. Excluding everything that's happening on the outside world, which is quite frightening and unsettling right now. But, this is very much about the personal journey and documentation of my own self-love quest. And so, sticking back to what I was talking about before, I need to work on not being all over the place with these things. I realized, over the course of the last 10 days that I need to get better at doing parts work. It really just comes down to that. There's one part that does not want to commit to self-love at all. Like, at all, it means death if we love ourselves. Like, it is really painful to start having a conversation with that part, but it's very real. And it is there. And how appropriate, it's starting to rain now. So maybe I should wrap this up soon. But basically, after discovering that, I realized, it's not the end of the world. I just need to get better at listening. That was really the takeaway. The message after kind of sitting down, stopping everything, and recognizing, I'm trying to fight against the part of myself that doesn't love me, that hates the self-love process. And that part is very real and is sending a very clear and consistent message that I need to get on board with it, and I need to figure out a way to get it on board with me, or otherwise we're going to keep running into this issue where I start to associate asking myself the question, what would somebody who loved themselves do, with pain, and wanting to just drop everything and just distract myself and just eat a bunch of bad food and watch a bunch of bad media as a form of coping. Does that make sense? This is really still mostly for me and anybody else who can benefit from this, watching this journey be documented. So I hope that makes sense. Really, if you don't do parts work, it's going to be harder to prevent this sort of brutal stop and go, and there'll be more stopping than going, if you know what I'm saying. When really the way to prevent that is to get way more conscious and back in touch with your intent in starting this self-love journey in the first place. If you get back in touch with it and you stop and you slow down, remember, it's about listening to the inner child that's severely in pain, that was never heard when he was actually a young child, when I was actually a young child, or whatever that would look like for you. If you were a young child, man or woman or anything in between, wherever you're coming from, that's the point. So I'm happy to report to you that I got back in touch with that intention, and to not just go through the motions and actually do what it takes to listen to that inner resistance, to identify that, okay, I need to get my other parts on board that are like, no, fuck this self-love bullshit. We are going to be hurt. We are going to be in trouble from that. I don't want any fucking part of that. That is how you break out of this sort of crash and burn cycle, and feeling like suddenly things that were easier before you're fighting uphill to continue asking yourself in as many moments as you can throughout your day, what would somebody who loved themselves do? That's kind of what happened over these last 10 days. And I think I've figured out a better way to go. And it's going to be about getting more solidly in touch with those fragmented parts. And that's the way to not go into autopilot as much. Once you're feeling into these parts more and kind of articulating that resistance, getting a very clear idea of what it's actually communicating to you, what it actually is, then it's so much easier to not get stuck in the mud and to lose focus and to lose dedication to this practice. So we don't want to get stuck in autopilot. I'm very eager to get back to you again with subsequent videos and to see if this does help. It's only the last day or two or three that I've been focusing more and more on my parts and the fact that I'm split. So we're going to keep trying to more efficiently maneuver ourselves out of autopilot living. And more on that later. But in the meantime, goodbye, motherfuckers. I love you. Toodaloo.